Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, March 10th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korean authorities are set to decide whether they will allow inoculation using AstraZeneca vaccines for people aged above 65 in the coming hours. China has launched a digital COVID-19 vaccine passport to promote cross-border travel for its citizens, joining other countries who have adopted similar schemes as they seek to reopen their economies. And the OECD has revised up its growth outlook for South Korea's economy, forecasting 3.3% growth this year. We begin with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The country reported 470 new cases on Wednesday, showing a gradual increase. Now, of the new cases, 452 were locally transmitted and 18 were from overseas. There were 3 more deaths. And as for the vaccination campaign, more than 60,000 people received the first dose on Tuesday, bringing the total number of jabs given so far to over 446,000. South Korean authorities seem set to approve the use of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine for people aged 65 and above. According to the KDCA, an expert committee will make the final decision later today. Initially, the AstraZeneca vaccine rollout was for all workers and residents at nursing homes, but the nation's Food and Drug Safety Ministry recommended administering it to only those younger than 65. But with data from the UK, more countries have been giving the shots to older adults. South Korea is expected to follow suit once more data is analyzed. As many countries hope to reopen their borders to international visitors thanks to the massive international COVID-19 vaccination campaign, China has launched a digital vaccination certificate which officials say will promote safe and orderly travel. Now, other countries, especially those in Europe, also plan to adopt such a scheme. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
China has launched a digital COVID-19 vaccine passport to promote cross-border travel for its citizens, joining other countries adopting a similar scheme as they seek to reopen their economies. Beijing's foreign ministry explains the certificate will include details about the holder's COVID-19 vaccination information and test results. During a recent press briefing, Beijing's top diplomat said the system will facilitate safe and orderly travel.
We will launch the Chinese version of the electronic traveller health certificate, which will verify nucleic acid test results and vaccination records with proper protection to personal privacy, thus facilitating a safe and orderly flow of personnel.
It's left to be seen how effective such a certificate could be, given that experts do not know for sure whether vaccines can completely prevent the spread of COVID-19. There are also notable privacy concerns. Nevertheless, Beijing is open to initiating negotiations with Hong Kong and South Korea to facilitate two-way travel. This comes as many other countries, especially those in Europe, plan to adopt such a scheme. The Netherlands announced Tuesday that it will launch a vaccine passport based on a smartphone app. Speaking to local media, the Dutch health minister said the system will enable people to enjoy travel, eating out, as well as concerts and festivals. Southeast Asian countries, namely Thailand and Vietnam, are also molding a similar system to welcome international travelers from July. While the plans need to be approved, they hope the vaccine certificate can help their tourism sectors recover following an unprecedented contraction due to the pandemic. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Now that the wearing of medical face masks have become mandatory in Germany, 10 out of 16 states in the country have approved the use of Korean-made KF94 masks. According to the South Korean embassy in Germany on Tuesday, their use have been approved in more than half the states and Berlin. The German government in January agreed to make it mandatory to wear medical masks such as the European standard FFP2 masks or masks equivalent to Korea's KF94 masks on public transportation and in stores. Other approved masks include the American standard N95 and the Chinese standard KN95 masks. President Moon Jae-in will meet with top ruling Democratic Party lawmakers in the coming hours to discuss pending state affairs. Among those invited to the Blue House will be Floor Leader Kim Tae-yeon, who also doubles as the acting chair after Lee Na-kyun stepped down Tuesday as he prepares to run for president next year. Now, likely up for discussion will be the $17 billion extra budget bill, which needs to be passed during the March parliamentary session to finance another batch of emergency relief payments. The OECD has revised its growth outlook up for both the South Korean economy and the world economy. The organization saw that measures for containing the economic fallout from COVID-19, including expanding vaccinations and providing additional fiscal support, would help improve GDP growth. Our business correspondent, Seon-kyung, has more.
The OECD Interim Economy Outlook was released yesterday and predicted the Korean economy would grow 3.3% this year. The figure is up from its December forecast of 2.8%. The new number surpasses growth forecasts made by major institutions. The International Monetary Fund estimated Korea's economy to advance by 3.1% this year. The Bank of Korea projected 3% growth. The forecasted growth rate by the Korean government was 3.2%. The OECD evaluated the effective containment measures and the government policy efforts which have contributed to minimizing the economic impact of the coronavirus and its aftermath. Regarding the Outlook report, the Finance Ministry stated that the Korean economy is widely projected to return to pre-pandemic levels this year, becoming one of the 7 nations to do so among the G20 countries. Along with Korea, the United States, China, Turkey, Australia, India, and Indonesia were on the list. Meanwhile, the OECD expects the world economy to rebound this year with 5.6% growth, marking a sharp increase from its last forecast of 4.2%. The organization also predicted that global output can rise above pre-pandemic levels by middle of this year. The revision is mostly due to faster progress in vaccine development, additional fiscal support by some countries, and the rapid economic recovery of the U.S., as well as increasing demand from its major trading partners. However, the OECD also stressed that the pace of economic recovery could differ between countries, mainly based on the pace of vaccination rollouts. Seon-kyung, Arirang News.
North Korea has been using cyber attacks to target diplomacy and security experts in South Korea. According to Seoul-based cybersecurity firm East Security on Wednesday, a hacking group from North Korea has been sending email attacks with computer viruses to the experts. Those emails included attachments about denuclearization and the Biden administration. The news of the hacking comes amid the South Korea-U.S. joint military exercises, which started on Monday. The regime's hacking group called Thallium is assumed to be behind the attacks. The International Olympic Committee will kick off its General Assembly Wednesday to discuss the upcoming Tokyo Games. While the Olympics are expected to take place in July as planned, a local Japanese media reported that the Japanese government decided to exclude overseas spectators from this year's Olympics and Paralympics. Our Lee Seung-jae has this report.
Starting Wednesday, the IOC's General Assembly will be held virtually for 3 days. It will mostly be focused on the rapidly approaching Tokyo Games. Just as it's certain that IOC President Thomas Bach will be re-elected as the head of the organization, the postponed Tokyo Games will almost certainly take place as planned this summer. It's likely the IOC will thrash out detailed plans for the Olympic Games. In particular, the focus will be on whether they'll allow fans into the stadiums.
In terms of spectators, there will be probably a decision towards the end of March, at least regarding international spectators. But beyond that, obviously, it's a little too early at the moment to say anything further, but it wasn't discussed today.
Watchers say it's likely that decision will be made by March 25th as requested by the Tokyo Games Organizing Committee, once the framework has been agreed upon at the IOC General Assembly. Some suggest that the Tokyo Games will only be open to Japanese spectators, meaning no overseas fans will be permitted. Despite vaccinations being rolled out globally, there are still concerns over the spread of COVID-19 through cross-border movement. According to Kyodo News on Tuesday, the Japanese government has decided to exclude overseas spectators from this year's Olympics and Paralympics. Citing officials with knowledge of the matter, the government has concluded that welcoming fans from overseas is not possible, given concerns among the Japanese public over COVID-19 and its more contagious variants being detected in many countries. The report added that the government will make a call in April on the number of spectators to be allowed into venues based on Japanese restrictions on attendance at large events. A recent poll in Japan showed that 3 out of 4 citizens oppose having overseas spectators at the Olympics. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A bunch of popular K-pop songs by certain artists have vanished from the global audio streaming service Spotify. The reason? A dispute between Spotify and KakaoM, known as the Kakao Entertainment now. Our Kim Bo-kyung has more on the reason and its implications for the future of K-pop around the world.
A big chunk of K-pop songs distributed by KakaoM, now Kakao Entertainment, disappeared from Spotify on March 1st after negotiations between Spotify and KakaoM didn't work out. KakaoM has long had an agreement to provide music to Spotify's global service, but that deal expired on February 28th. Spotify entered the Korean market at the start of February and was negotiating a deal for KakaoM's local music rights. To provide the same service for fans around the world, Spotify has been simultaneously pursuing deals for the rights for songs in both the global and the local Korean market. KakaoM says that this policy of Spotify's is what caused the global deal to expire. Spotify says it had been working on renewing the global licensing agreement for over a year and a half. According to experts, the important fact is that global K-pop fans aren't getting access to songs, and this issue highlights the problems with the current music industry structure.
The biggest issue, I think, is just that the fans themselves are not getting this music. When we talk about the Korean wave, we want to think that more content is being available and being able to be digested by audiences.
This is indicative of a much larger issue in that the music that people listen to and people enjoyed is controlled by only a few companies, and it's kind of a monopoly at a certain point.
Not only are fans unable to enjoy their favorite songs during these hard times, but also the data collected through the streaming platform helps artists win awards. Global fans' outrage can be seen through hashtags like KakaoMOut, believing KakaoM is responsible for pulling their favorite artists' music.
So the problem with taking away musicians from Spotify means that a lot of their streaming data has been erased. So as many people know, in Korea especially, these numbers are really important for certain awards and having certain milestones.
And the other thing too is that, music, I think, especially at this time when we're all, at home so much and streaming services are growing, what we've seen during the pandemic is that, your music collection, those certain playlists that you have, it's a comfort to a lot of people, right?
Though both companies say they are trying their best to resolve the issue, the longer it continues, the more that both fans and artists will lose out. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
A film about an immigrant family from Korea's search for the American dream has been nominated in 6 categories at the British Academy of Film and Television Arts 2021. The nominations for Minari include Best Film Not in the English Language, as well as nods for Lee Isaac-chung for Best Director and Yoon Ye-jung for Best Supporting Actress. This year's BAFTA ceremony will take place virtually on April 11th.
Doing things right.
Yes.
Good morning. We had quite a chilly start to the day again, but readings will rise rapidly and we're expecting lots of warmth by the afternoon, leading to wide gaps of more than 15 degrees Celsius in most regions. But on a day like today, cold and flu activity levels are high to very high across the country. So take good care of yourself. We don't want you to get sick. Also, have a face mask that can block fine dust again. Levels will rise across the country, choking many of us. So despite lots of sunshine, skylines will be blurry with toxic smog. Afternoon readings will be 4 to 5 degrees higher than yesterday, and Daegu and Busan will make it to 15 degrees Celsius this afternoon. The warming trend continues under mostly sunny skies in the capital region, while Jeju and the Jeollado provinces will start to see rain from tomorrow night, gradually spreading to the rest of South by Friday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.